Next up, we will have Christa Pandey. Christa is a poet from Austin, Texas, and her poem appears on page 84. Please welcome Christa. As you have already noticed, each poem gets better, but I hate to say this, from here on, it's not necessarily so. I was rather intrigued with the German immigrants here in.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I will speak louder. I had been somewhat intrigued with the German immigration towards Fredericksburg and San Antonio and New Braunfels, so I was looking more for a story from that area. And I found Karl Hilmer Günther, who some of the San Antonio people may know as the founder of a flour mill, and some of you may have bought that flour, which was called Pioneer Flour Mill. And in fact, when we were in San Antonio, an older gentleman came up to me and said, "I'm the great-grandson of this man." so much. And this is in the form of a haibun, which means a prose poem with a haiku attached. Karl Hilmer Günther. The Central Texas pioneers were growing grains, but had no mill to grind them. Trained as a millwright, I saw gains. A life among my fellow German immigrants drew me to Fredericksburg, a young and growing place. The scenic Pedernales River powered my first flour mill, yet one severe drought and a flood made me rebuild in San Antonio. There I ran Günther's mill for 40 years, affording me a fine house and a family. When railroads came, I could expand into a larger region. In 1898, my youngest son joined me to carry on. Our growing firm, the doorstep of the 20th century, called for a broadened name. Remembering my early days, we chose Pioneer Flour Mills. And the haiku is a direct quote from him. In America, seize the opportunity that presents itself. At least that was a motto for immigrants. And I was not so sure what to read for the second one, but since there was another semi-German connection, I will read this one. And it's on page 101, and it was written by Susan Terrace, and it's about Annie Oakley, and it's called "Dear Your Honor, Kind Sir Kaiser Wilhelm II." And apparently, according to her little note here, it is a true story, except that the letter is fictional, but what is described in the letter has apparently happened when he was still a crown prince and had come to America. So she writes this in 1914. Do you remember how you called me Phoebe, my given name? Of course, those long ago chucked, almost forgotten. But you, daft for myth and myth-making, saw in me Phoebe, Artemis, Diana the huntress, not with a bow, no sir, but with a gun. Yes, I would become a girl of the Wild West with a man's hat, long rat tail of hair, and medals across my chest. Remember how chuffed you were by my strong arms and playfoot stance. You weren't exactly fresh with me, yet you teased till I said, I'll shoot the ash off your cigarette. Done. A bang-up success. Then you called me moon goddess and bust me but twice on each cheek. Now it seems you're tail over tea kettle in the middle of a great war, and this is the second letter I've written you since midsummer. I would like another chance to shoot at your ash. Why aren't you answering? What is it you are afeard of? Would I, your Diana, presume to hurt you? Use with humility and ambition, Phoebe Ann Mosley, also known as Annie Oakley.
That was wonderful, Christa. Thank you. As you may have noticed, that we are doing the poems kind of in the order in which they appear in the book, at least the first poem. So I'm actually the next reader then. My poem begins on page 90, but I'm going to read, instead of my poem first, another poem. This is on page 28, and it's by Alana Torres. And the poem is called Angelina Sees Father Damian Again. And Angelina was a Hassanai woman who assisted Spanish missionaries active in Texas during the late 17th and 18th centuries. And written accounts from the Spanish and French provide only a few tantalizing bits of information about her. So she left her village to learn Spanish at Mission San Juan Bautista, spent time mediating and interpreting for various parties, and helped save the life of a French officer. Damian Massanet was a Franciscan priest who in 1690 helped to found San Bernardino de la Caldera in the area of Angelina's village. So this is in the voice of Angelina. Angelina sees Father Damian again. Padre, I had never met a person so far from home. Your eyes like scurrying beetles, afraid of bigger things, afraid your God, that pale sun, would diffuse. My tongue molded words like hierba and fuego, but you did not tell me words are the ghosts of real things. Every time I spoke, white smoke poured from my mouth. Did I blame you? Only if you counted bodies. The worst of the world sank in your skin. What could you do about that? Keep your skin. I grew, had children. If a man came to me with the ocean sloshing between his ears, I did not stop to ask the name of his God. What grace I found in the open hand. So my poem begins on page 90, and it is in the voice of Henry Wickenburg, a prospector who was an immigrant from Prussia. And his name still survives in Arizona as the town of Wickenburg, Arizona. And this is his voice at the end of his life. So he had discovered a gold strike, which became the Vulture Mine, and he later sold his claim and was swindled out of the bulk of it. So this is the voice at the very end of his life. And the poem is called Sign. I can still see the iron-stained quartz with its placer vein, the outcrop up by Antelope Creek, and remember believing it was my salvation, though it surely was more Satan's work than God's. Half my life ago, I staked my claim on Vulture Mine, and all but 4 years since, I've wasted on it. Not a judge in this territory's wise enough to see past the lies about my title to the claim, and I'd wager more than one took a little gold on the side to grease his judgment. I'm ashamed to set foot in the church I built, ashamed of my worn coat, the hole in my boot. I see the widow's pitying eyes. And no matter what the Reverend says, I won't forgive those bastards their sins. When I was a judge, I hung many a high grader for stealing less than 1/100th what those swindlers took from me. The day I heaved that gold-seamed stone at vultures circling over my head, I should have taken them for a sign. What comes when a man has wealth, drawn to the poison of a festering wound? Wow. Next up, we have Austin poet Gloria Amescua. Gloria's poems appear on pages 118 and 142 of the anthology. Please welcome Gloria.
The first one I read is the one that's on page 142. And it's about a guitarist who is trying to keep the oral tradition of the corridos or folk songs of his people and pass those on to the next generation. And it has a lot of Spanish in it, but try to get the sense of it from the context. El guitarrista. Tu papá wants me to teach you la guitarra. Sí, mijo. He asked me. Bueno, it'll be easy. A few simple chords for los corridos de la gente. Mi guitarra tiene 6 strings, but en el tiempo de los abuelos, they played the bajo sexto with 6 double strings. Vamos a empezar con Kansas, sung in mi familia since forever. The oldest corridos completos de los vaqueros on the early cattle drives. Esos 5 mexicanos al momento los echaron y los 30 americanos se quedaron azorados. Mijo, ¿no sabes que los gringo cowboys learn from los vaqueros? Ah, qué lástima. I'll teach you corridos de los hombres who stood up to las rinches, the Texas Rangers. They killed our gente on puro sospecho, for nothing. We were just Mexicanos to them. We ended up working the same lands we once owned. I'll teach you a little today, pero primero necesito un cigarrillo. Give me that white pouch over there. Y los papelitos también. I make my own. Hold one thin papelito between my fingers, a line of tobacco, lick it, seal it, and lick the end. Pero I don't want you smoking, mijo. I used to be really good. Ahora mi voz es como un cigarrillo burning out. Mis dedos like gnawed bones. Now back to la guitarra. Put your fingers on the string like this. Did you know the corridos are old, bien viejos? Hay muchos tipos that were sung in the fields, or when las familias gathered en casa or fiestas, songs passed down from los abuelos. Pero los jóvenes ya no recuerden, they forget the old ways. Ahora, el corrido de Gregorio Cortés era muy famoso. Have you heard of it? Sheriff Morris in Karnes County killed el hermano de Gregorio for a crime. No, they didn't do it. Gregorio killed ese sheriff and fled like a jackrabbit on foot y en caballo. Fearing the noose, he hardly slept for hundreds of miles. Gregorio defended himself con su pistola, the only way back then. Respeto, mijo. That's what la gente wanted. Decía Gregorio Cortés con su pistola en la mano, no siento haberlo matado, lo que siento es mi hermano. ¿Te gustó? I traveled the border and sometimes up to San Antonio. La gente used to ask me to sing in las fiestas, también en las cantinas. Ay, los gritos I would throw when I was un poco borracho. Ya tienes que irte. Pero we just got started. Okay then, Dios te bendiga, mijito. You come back anytime. Soy viejito, but I'll be here, si Dios quiere. Noticed there were some changes there because I'm still revising. Okay. I revised for 3 months, I'm still revising. Okay. The other one is on page 118, and it's Migrant Mother. And the poem is inspired by, I will say inspired by, a family story because there's really very little factual information that I know. So most of it's based on a little bit of a real person and the rest of it from research and what I felt. La cosecha is the harvest. From El Valle to West Texas, following La cosecha. Julio, agosto, septiembre. We stuffed and emptied our cotton sacks, fingers torn, the sun stealing our bent breath. Then the relentless pains arrived, still far away from La Pisca and Lubbock. Too soon, too soon. You wrenched yourself out of me in the back of La Troca, La Colcha, blood-drenched. Ay, Dorcito, your tiny body barely pulsed in my arms, skin fluttered thin, your head cupped como huevito in my palm. A few moments, then not even a whisper of breath, nada. I cradled you against my chest, junto a mi corazón, held onto you until the others plucked you from me. They wrapped you in Memo's clean shirt, nestled you in the dry earth, buried you on the side of the road, only the brush and blue stems left to sing to you. Mi corazón y alma quebrados. I named you Maria de la Luz, mi preciosa bebita. My breasts leaked for weeks, even though I bound them with cloth. We couldn't have returned to our casita in Mercedes, had to leave you on that lonely strip of road under the vast blanket of sky, had to heed the call of the white bowls erupting from hulls, their own ripening time, had to earn money for the long stretch, la renta, comida, todo. Noviembre, La Pisca over, and we returned to El Valle, my arms barren, picked clean. I kept looking for the rise of earth where we buried you. Ay, mi luz, mi lucita, only I will remember your name.